Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight we are going to be talking about how did we grow up? How do we come into this world? What is the story we were attached to? What is the book of dogma with this ancestral lineage that we seem to have been engaged in, intertwined in? We are part of its tapestry. Just as we've shared on this radio show for over a decade now, that our soul is on one trajectory. On a perpendicular trajectory is an ancestral lineage. When we come into contact and we intersect, that is what is creating our lifetime. It's almost as if our avatar being just downloads the files of that ancestral lineage and we take it on as ours. The pain, the shame, the guilt, the stories, and we believe it is, quote, us. Today we're going to be talking about is how you engage in that us, how you see the story for what it is, how you definitely feel, touch, explore, and have those experiences while they are open and available to you. And then you come out the other side and you say, you know what? I'm going to take a shower. I'm just going to release it all. I'm going to wail, just as I did and I've shared on the show. I wailed for 3 years to release all of that stuff. And the time is now. Can we let go of it? Say, that is so not me. That's the part of my human and the story that it has engaged in. However, I am so much more. Today my guest is Marylee Martin. She's the author of An Unsuspecting Child, a memoir coming to grips with covert childhood abuse. Marylee is an actress, and she's been in theater and on stage, and she's going to be sharing how she stepped into many of those identities, play them in her life and on stage, and be able to say, can now I step back and see who I am? Marylee, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
So happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you, Marylee. I think that is just a wonderful time in our existence when we're able to start getting rid of some of these old stories. Do you think?
I absolutely agree. And that's what it's all about, is being able to understand the why something happened to you so you can shed it and let it out, let it go behind you. Understand. Once you understand your path.
Yeah. And it's so freeing to be able to do that, because once you do, it's almost as if, I'm sure you've seen this many times and you've done it yourself. When you have a cloak on you and you're just tossing it back, and then all of a sudden you stand up straight and you walk into the sunset kind of idea, right? Don't you think that's a great ending?
That is how it feels. That is very much how it feels, because you are in a confused state, and sometimes you don't even know what happened to you that affected your life in such a devastating way. You're not even aware of it, and it takes a while to kind of figure it out and go back and dig in and go, holy mackerel.
Yeah.
All of these things affected that little girl, and then that affected her entire life.
You know what's so important, Marylee, and I want to talk about this to start out, is that in the beginning, in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, if we look at it, that's a time when people are saying, we have a story to tell, but they're not going to tell it. You know, we look back at our ancestors. I mean, I can remember my grandparents and my great-grandparents, and there were things that they said, but I have very little memory of their, quote, stories. But then I can definitely tell you my parents' stories and their siblings. And when we look back at the stories, we're going, what do we really remember? Are we remembering the good, the bad, the ugly? Are we creating an illusion? Are we denying it? Or are we perhaps saying, now is the time, I'm just going to let it loose? What do you think?
I think now is the time to let it loose. In my case, my mother had written about 6 genealogy books of all of the different sides of our family. So I was able to go back in and discover, a lot about the people who had brought her up. And she grew up in an orphanage I think there were 300 kids in that orphanage. And she was there from 6 to 13. So that developed a lot of who she saw herself as. Right. And she met a guy who was young and popular and out there having fun. And when they got together, those worlds collided. But when you're little, you don't understand what's going on. You're just seeing it.
Right. But don't you think also, too, Marylee, that a lot of times we say, oh, but they grew up in orphanages. But if you and I know this from, sharing those stories of a long time ago, that was not uncommon at all in those days. Do you
Absolutely. It was not. I mean, in this case, her mother took them to sort of take care of the children.
Correct. While
she tried to go to work and get them out. So it wasn't as though she was saying, here you go, I deserted you, hope you get adopted. I mean, they were sort of caring, nurturing centers.
Yes, and I think that's so vitally important because a lot of times people take the context of the word and then they have their own story attached to it, and then they go off and say, well, and they have a negative aspect of it, when in essence, you have to go back in time and look at the environment, what was going on in history, and the mechanics of living at that time, don't you think?
I do agree, and I think that it's important to know that, my mother would not talk about it, not a word. We knew it happened, and we knew she was there. So it became very, very personal for her, where she always had this inner story going on that we weren't really allowed to see. And that affected her whole relationship with my father.
Yeah. Do you think that the choice of men in the 40s, 50s, and 60s was very limited? Because I know for myself, all of our relatives lived within 2 miles. And they were, my parents, and their siblings were very large families, 8 and 9, 10 kids.
Yes,
but, but they all lived within 2 miles of each other. And when you think about it, really there was a lot of intermingling. There was a lot of, who's a cousin, who's not, and who even cares. And there was a lot of, what I thought was important to bring up, too, is that there's a lot of illiteracy then. People changed their names. They didn't know how to write. They didn't quite know who was who in the neighborhood. Do you think?
Right. Well, my mother and father met at a USO dance. She was from Missouri, and he was from Ohio. And they fell in love on a dance floor. And then he went off to tour during the war, and she got married and sort of waited for him. I will say that when my mother had Alzheimer's, she said that it was a UFO dance. And so I used to think, wow, if my parents were introduced by aliens, that would explain a lot.
Right. I saw that in your book. And that is actually, when you step outside of yourself, your human existence really does look like a foreign film script, don't you think?
It really does. You're going, what the heck?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like your memoir is truly, you're writing a lot of graphic details about your life, your family members, the people that were around you, the husbands and the kids. And sometimes people will say, don't dare do that. You're not allowed to write this story. Do you think that you waited until you were old enough till some people were dead? Well, we all want the perpetrators to be dead. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Or we want the others to not be able to read it. So, hey, that's okay, kind of cool, if this one's that or the other, not able to read it. Or we also, too, want to be able to step out and say, I need to feel safe enough to share my story. Don't you think all of that was true
Well,
for you?
I believe all of that is true. And I waited until I was 53. So I didn't really realize that what was happening to me was affecting me the way it had been until I was able to start taking a look at it in depth and a little bit of a stand back and realizing that I could have taken no other path than the path I took.
Right.
And I didn't really wait until people had died. I waited until I understood it in my mind. It's a little bit like getting naked.
Right, it sure is.
You're shedding your whole little cocoon that we all live in, and it's very safe there. But if there was even a chance that one person could recognize that these things that happened were not their fault, and that they were brave and smart and had a chance to let go of all those, I call them movies in my mind. You know, they're flashbacks of things that happened. And, you know, I could be in a car and a little movie would play out the whole thing. So it's hard, it's very hard to face this, but once you do and once you understand, your mind is so free. It's amazing.
Yeah, and don't you think also, too, the purpose is to be able to share these stories so that you can be free, but you don't take those same stories and perpetrate it on the next generation. In other words, your life, your grandparents, and all of that pain and suffering has nothing to do with your children and your grandchildren. And to be able to say, stop, the line is delineated here, these stories no longer need to go forward, then they're already
exactly
free.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, you are so right. And the kids, my daughter is just an amazing woman. She would never put up with the stuff that I did because she knows who she is.
Right.
It's very impressive to know that even though you might have been kind of confused, you did a pretty good job with that child of making sure that child had the freedom.
Yeah. And also, too, you know, my daughter had given me this book, and it's like a journal kind of thing for me to write down, like, all the important times in my life and my childhood, how I grew up, all this other stuff. I put it in the closet. I said, you know what, I'm not going to fill it out because my stories are not going to be perpetrated on the next. I'm just going to enjoy my kids for where they are, and, you know, and they would see me as the healed soul. Isn't that what we really want, is for them to see us as the healed soul?
That is exactly what we want. And there is a change in your whole ability to laugh and smile and not feel hollow inside. When you really become your own person and you can say, that's behind me. And this is my life now, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah, because if we keep coming up with our old kind of clothing, our old kind of trinkets from the past, even myself, I cleaned out the house and I gave all the kids their stuff back that they had left here. And I said, the day I pass, now listen to this. I said, the day that I pass on, don't come to my house thinking you're going to find something. There's nothing here. And because I wanted to release it enough so that they didn't have those feelings of coming to the house and attached to the grief. I didn't want them to do that. Don't you think that's what we really want for our next generation?
That is exactly what we want for the next generation. We just want them to live and enjoy life and trust in each other. And we don't want to burden them with all the things that happen to us. But we do want to make sure that we dig in there enough to know what happened to us, so that we can be free enough to be there for these kids in this beautiful way.
Let's go back to the story. You talk about covert childhood abuse. You know, I hate to say it, but once we start talking about this, it seems like everybody's been there and done that and had that. You know, I can remember traveling. We would go to Florida, you know, every once in a while. from the north, we would drive down, and always we would stop halfway in Aiken, South Carolina at a relative's house. And it was always, come sit on my lap and watch Johnny Carson. Well, of course, he was very abusive. And it was dark, nobody was around or anything, that kind of idea.
Right.
And, oh, aren't you special? Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, you're so intelligent. We've all heard those, But I can distinctly remember one day I was running through the backyard, and he was in his workshop, and he was calling me, and his wife, my aunt, was on the patio, and she was screaming frantically for me not to go to the workshop. And I didn't. And I think, oh, now when I reflect back on it, I say, she was protecting me in a way. Yes, yes. So don't you think there's a lot of times when you've had a lot of those experiences that you share in your book, that there's been people to help, there's been times when you didn't get help, but there's also times when you knew in your head something different?
You instinctively know what's happening, even before it really happens, that little inner thing that's inside of you that says, yeah, this isn't right. And we have all been through, every woman on the planet has been through this. So. And sometimes not quite to the extent that some children go through. My father wanted to make me the perfect wife because he wasn't happy. And that's a big responsibility for a little 9-year-old girl to try and understand when all the other kids are out there thinking about whatever it is that other children think about. So you're trying to exist happily and follow the rules that society's given you, and then you're hit with predators behind every door, but you don't know how to stand up for yourself because you never learned about life.
Yeah. But don't you think that women were always weak, and women have never come into their full power until maybe the past few decades, and it's been very slow? Because if you look back at it, we think when there's a few that would stand out that were strong, but in essence, were they not just rebelling, but still being subservient in other ways? I mean, in other words, is it really true? Were women strong then?
Yeah, I don't think women had a voice. Frankly, I think it wasn't until the Me Too movement started that women started getting stronger and saying, I am not going to accept this. This is not going to happen. This is you take responsibility for what you have done, and they are going to free themselves and society of people who think they're so protected. Predators, they come looking like gentleman callers, so it's not just some old wino on the street. You never know. But if you can develop that instinct, which is what I used to try and tell my daughter, be strong, be aware, look around you, and follow that gut instinct. That one thing that says, yeah, I don't know if this is right. Follow that, and speak up, speak out.
Right, because a lot of times predators, we think of it as someone outside of the house. There's many times it's predators inside the house. It's also predators, like of your family members, mother, father, brother, sister.
I have that too.
Yeah, and the point is that we always say, well, what kind of predator is it? And then we used to have this little scale. Well, was it this? Oh, we'll give it a 1 or a 2, and maybe we'll give it a 3 or 4. But that's not really a predator because they didn't fit all or check all these boxes. And you and I are going,
they're all predators.
That's right. You and I are going, holy BS. Get out my way because that doesn't fit in my story, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's unbelievable how easy they can slide into your world, and before you know it, you're going, what? I have some kind of little sticker on my forehead that says, this one's easy. And it's not that at all. It's that you did not have what we are now developing for women, is that ability to be aware of our surroundings and to know that it's okay to speak out and speak up and have a voice?
I think now what we're doing is we're discerning that we are so much more than the experiences we went through. In other words, we all went through these kind of experiences, you know? And if we can look at it as chapters in our book, we'll say, hey, okay, just like you know, with several marriages, myself too. And do you remember there was a period of time, and I'm sure you do, they said, they came up in psychology and they said, well, who's the one that's in all these stories? And you would say, yourself. And they would say, the problem must be you then. You know, it can't be them. Do you remember that time?
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah. It had to be you. And I flipped it on them one day. You know, I don't remember where I was. I don't know where I was. But at any rate, I flipped it on the person that said it. And I said, excuse me, I just had so many different experiences. This ex-husband taught me this. This one taught me that. Another one, I just hooked up with him for this purpose. And the other people just kind of stepped back and said, huh? And I said, don't you dare put your guilt, shame, and whatever and dump it onto me to make mine bigger. I'm not going to do it. And don't you think that's what we really want to say?
Oh, that is what we so want to say. I love that story. It's perfect.
Yeah, because, I mean, you had marriages too, but each one of them was very different from the next, right?
On purpose.
Right.
And the thing is, as you're trying to make it work, your brain is going, I don't know. And I think because my parents' marriage was so bad, I had set myself up saying, well, if I'm not happy, I'm just leaving.
Right.
But it's not just a matter of, he didn't take out the garbage. It's that as things get really hard and confusing and you are losing who you are.
Yeah.
You have to escape.
It's almost in essence that each one of our marriages or each time we've fallen or each time something else happened, it was as if we were uncovering a story of ourselves. Do you ever remember, I know I have done this, each time, something came up and I would learn from it and then I'd go to the next one and I'd say, okay, now, like with the first marriage, I said for the second one, I want a guy who doesn't drink. And I set that up.
Yes.
But I didn't put any other parameters there. So I got a guy who didn't drink excessively, but he still drank, but he didn't have the other things I needed. Then on the next guy I met, I said, well, I want someone who comes home.
True.
I want someone who comes home every single night. Well, he didn't drink excessively. He came home every night, and he stayed with his job. But then I didn't put the other things, So it's sort of like, what are we looking for? Are we looking to heal those pieces of the story? Or are we looking for unconditional love and we think it's still out there?
Oh, that fantasy.
Yeah.
We are always looking for acceptance and someone who is, we think. It's funny because I did the same thing. I chose one guy for one reason and another one because he was handy like my father. And another one because he was just simply a good man.
Right.
But you don't know enough about life in general. You haven't known enough about yourself to know what kind of counter person you need. And there is no white horse guy. Thank you, Walt Disney. It is very hard to look at someone, especially because how long do we date these people? A couple of years, and then a lifetime. And you're going.
Mine was always 2 years to know them, 2 years to engage in it, and 2 years to get the heck out of there.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, marriage is not at all the way you think it is. I mean, you think you can work it out. You can fix it. You can make it what you want to be. And, no, that's hard.
But I thought it was so cool about the process, and you know, you share it in your stories in your book. Again, the book is An Unsuspecting Child, a memoir. It's truly that we are engaging in these different aspects, and when we kind of feel it, we say, we want this to be like Heal Me, or I want someone to not, like, if your father's an excessive drinker, you want someone who's not a drinker. If
exactly,
you know, if your brother used to go to work all the time, you want someone who goes to work all the time. You know what I mean? So we're finding, it's almost as we're picking and choosing qualities. If we get a good quality, we end up with a bad quality. If we pick a bad quality, then we want to fix it with a good quality. It's almost as if we're bouncing.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Right, we're bouncing back and forth in this dual kind of existence. We're going, man, I feel like a bobblehead sometimes, you know. I even said to someone the other day, man, my head is spinning inside this black hole. I'm going to pop out the other side, you know, because...
Yeah, that's how it feels.
Yeah, because it's human story. We want to go, get me the heck out of here. And when we say that, that's when our soul starts to open up and say, okay, let's write a different book. And we step out of the story. Isn't that when your therapy started? You stepped out of the story to heal your soul?
That is when it started. I could not believe how fortunate I was to have been able to step out of every one of, as you call them, those little chapters over and over and over throughout my life. And you end up shedding it. You know, you end up feeling like, I think I'm free. I think I know who I am. And that doesn't mean we're already married again. I wouldn't choose somebody for a different thing that I didn't have before. I think that finding your own self and meeting someone who knows their selves is tricky. And it can be done. I mean, I have friends who have amazed, but I also have friends who are really struggling. And it's very hard. I have to thank the beautiful psychologist and psychiatrist who sort of walked me through it.
Yeah. But you know, when you get on that side, you don't need anything else anymore. It's sort of like, I don't need to go have an experience anymore because
it's true.
It just doesn't even show up. It's sort of like, I mean, like I live in New Orleans. Mardi Gras was here. I said, I know Mardi Gras. I understand it. I see it for what it is. It's real. You know, I said, I don't need to have that experience anymore, and it doesn't even affect me. Or if there's something going on, like a funeral or whatever, since I'm a medium, I don't go to funerals because I pick up too much stuff, and it takes me forever to clean myself out. You know, so
my gosh.
I said, well, I'm not going to go to that, and I don't need to have that experience. And they say, but you didn't this, and you didn't that, and that, and that. And I went, woof, human story. Close the door.
Oh, no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to be able to learn to say, no. You know, do you want to do this? Do you really want to do it, or are you doing it because you know they want you to do it? So you're going, no, I really don't want to do that. And I don't need this as much as I thought I did. There's so many peripheral things that you think you need to make you happy that you realize, I don't really need those anymore.
Don't you think you come to a point where, I don't know about you, but I spend very little time doing other things or experiencing other things because it's like, whatever, you know, or going in because we need to be seen or you need to be heard or you need to be validated. Sort of like, no, I don't really need to do that. Or people will say, but they have to see you to see how you're doing and everything. No, you don't need to download my Rolodex. I'm just good. Don't you think? You know,
I do agree with that.
We're feeling like
you don't owe it to everyone. Yeah,
right. It's not like we're meeting up with avatars and they're going to download how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, and if they feel like talking to me, it's sort of like I don't need that experience anymore, right?
Yes, it's true. You don't owe other people your healing experience, or your letting them verify that they think. This is the way I feel when I was first divorced. I was Catholic, and in the Catholic Church, there's no divorce, and so I had to get an annulment. Didn't want one, but my parents insisted. So I had to go down to a tribunal of priests to tell them all about a marriage that I had already decided would never work and wasn't valid, so that they'd feel good about telling me it's okay, it doesn't work, it's not valid. There's $500. But you're convincing someone of something you already know. So if you know that, then be secure in that.
Yeah. It's so funny you just said that, because I can distinctly remember after my first divorce, I was going to the church with the kids, and it was Easter Sunday, and I was going up to communion. And my mother yanked me back. You would have thought she was going to throw me back 10 pews. And she says, "Don't dare go up to communion if you're divorced." And I'm going,
can you believe that? Come on.
And and I just kind of let it go. You know what I mean? And I think I've had a lot of those instances. I'm sure you've had them and you've written them in your book. But when we've been yanked back by others to validate their experiences versus how we are going to grow or do something differently. Because
yes, that's exactly what happens.
Because don't you think it's so true is that when you start to become the unique one versus the same or like one, they want to suck you back into their swamp like there's nobody's business, right?
Oh, yeah. I always consider myself the black sheep. But on the other hand, I lived. I went out and lived. Yeah. And I did everything I wanted to do. And yes, I wish certain things had not happened. I would have been just fine without them. But they did help create for me the characters in the theater, the deep friendships that you knew were more than just surface friendships. They taught me a lot.
Right, but without it, you wouldn't have had characters in your own story. You would have just had a survival existence. You and I are not about survival existence. We were about give me a socket in the wall. Let me stick my finger in to see what happens.
Exactly right. Because you were not going to live in a little box,
right?
Right. With all these rules and parameters that you're not quite sure you believe and understand. And you're going to go out and you're going to experience the world, see everything, do everything, feel everything, and make it worthwhile. We have such a limited time. Oh, but I really like the idea that you're a medium. That is very cool.
But what is truly cool, too, though, Marylee, is that you and I are what I call the bridge generation. So, in other words, we were always given these boxes of truths because, when we had that perpendicular intersection with the ancestral lineage, we downloaded all that crap. It's just that we said, well, let's filter through. I could see us, and probably you when you're doing many of your scripts. Let's sit here and flip through this and see where I fit in. Let's see what's true and what's not, and let's see what's a belief and a dogma, and start living them, cast them out. Living them, cast them out. And then all of a sudden, I'll take a fragment of that, cast the rest of it out. That was what our position in the evolution of humanity is all about. So in actuality...
Yes, we are very much alike. That is exactly what happened.
Yes, because that's your position as your soul and angel being. That's what you're supposed to do.
Love that.
And you succeeded.
Yeah, there is a light at the end of this tunnel.
Yep.
People need to know that it is there. It can happen. And, it doesn't matter if you have been on the bottom of the hole, and I've been on the bottom of that hole.
Right.
You can get out. It can happen. It is there for you.
Do you know what's so interesting you said about the bottom of the hole? People would say to me, you must be stuck in the bottom of the hole, whatever. I say, it's absolutely fabulous. Did you see the gold that I mined from that hole? And I walk away. I always have something to slip. You know what I mean? Let's always flip the story. And just as you said, that there is a light, and I'm going, do you know what that light is? That light is the other part of your soul that you're just meeting up and say, yo, hey, I'm ready, let's go. That's cool.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. It's just spectacular when it happens.
Yeah, because in your movies, when you come back to the end of the character, don't you think you come into that space when they're meeting up with that? In other words, closure?
Excellent word. Perfect word. And it's so important.
Yeah. Do you think, Marylee, as we close out our show today, it's about being able to say, what is my story experience? Don't you think what we're doing today is encouraging others and inspiring others to say, hey, man, just let it rip. Give me your worst. And as I would have like a bunch of women together. Yeah, my dream is to have like a bunch of women together sharing their experiences, and one would be standing up saying, I got you one better, here's mine. Another one saying, I got you one better, here's mine. And let
you call me, I'm coming to that. I'm
telling you. True. We ought to go to Florida and go to Miami and have a women's group, right?
Let's do it. I'm in. Call me.
I'm not kidding. Because you know what?
I get it.
Yeah, because once we set them free, it's sort of like, whoa, man, did that feel good, right?
I was just going to say the feeling that you get after all this time is overwhelming. It's unbelievable, and you had no idea you were capable of that.
Yeah. And as we come up into the last part of our chapter of our lives, what I've always shared with patients at the end of life, they would have stories, or I would ask them, why are they afraid, or why are they not ready to go, or what's holding them back? Because they would resist it. They'd be at therapies and treatments that they really didn't need, or they'd be fighting it, so to speak. And they would always have a part of a story they couldn't let go. One woman, and she always let me share her story, she said that, but we just bought this new house after Katrina, and I'm leaving my partner with all of these bills and everything, and I feel so bad. I said, honey, when you go through that door, there's no bills over there. What you worried about? I said, you're not going to be here. And she had to hear that in real language, in real time, to say, there's nothing I can control outside of my own being. Isn't that what we're talking about? That is
absolutely right. And when you get to be older, that door at the end there, it's pretty much staring you in the face. And it doesn't matter whether it's 10 years or 20 years that, you may have. That door is there. It is finite. And it is time to live. Enjoy, get the heck out, do something, make it happen. It's time.
Yeah, because you know what, too, is that you can't take all your baggage stories with you or your secrets. They don't fit through the door. I always tell people it doesn't fit through the door. You can't take it with you. And when we think about that, we say, I know for myself after having hurricanes, I'm like, let's leave the doors open and let it just take everything, because I really need a new wardrobe, Or, hey, I'm super tired of I don't spring clean. When it comes to the beginning of hurricane season, I don't even be bothered. I said, you know what? It's going to come. It's going to take it. Let me just wait. I'm not wasting my time on it. So
that was a great attitude.
Yeah, because don't you think that once you start shedding that stuff, you don't waste time on frivolous things of the old story?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely true. Empowering.
Yeah. Absolutely. And in closing, there's one thing I do want to say, is that a lot of times people will say, when you share your story, because you want to get your power back from a perpetrator. And I say, absolutely not. That's been tainted. That's been touched. I don't want that sucker back. All I want to do is grow from inside. And I want us to be able to really reflect on that for a second. Because you want to grow from inside your own power you don't want that whatever you think you gave to someone else to come back to you, right?
Oh, I am not trying to take their power. Their power is over. I am just trying to create my own inner power and strength.
Yes.
I don't need them anymore.
Absolutely. You know, Marylee, it was such a pleasure to talk with you today. I think many people are saying, how can I navigate this time in my life? And it's gotten so heavy. You know, we as women start to bend over, we get heavier, we get tired, we feel like we're carrying bigger purses. I don't know about you, but I don't carry a big purse anymore. I have this little tiny little crossbody thing. That's it. Exactly. I said, no more, not doing it. I don't care. It just doesn't show up anymore. So whatever you can do to start lightening your load.
So happy to have talked to you. I think you're terrific. I think your outlook is so perfect for so many of us who want this rest of our days to be ours, to be what we want, how we want them, and on our own terms.
Right, because what else is the reason, right? What are we here for?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no reason to carry misery to the end.
Oh, heck no. I'm not crawling through the door. I'm going to go walk proudly through it. I'm good.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Well, Marylee, it was such a pleasure to speak with you. Can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work?
I do have a Marylee Martin Facebook, Marylee Martin author, and the book's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Archway Publishing, all online. I am certainly happy. I am on LinkedIn and a lot of the other apps, all as Marylee Martin, and I'm certainly happy to hear from anyone. Thrilled to have had this conversation with you today. I think you're great. I'm waiting for my invitation to Miami.
I'm telling you. That's what we're going to have to do, I truly believe so, because it's just, phew, man, just let some of this stuff go. I live in New Orleans, and I had said to my friend one day, I said, we really need to go downtown in the French Quarter and I haven't worn a sequin gown in like decades, right?
Oh, my gosh, long time.
I said, let's put one on. I'd love to wear one, and let's go out to eat. And they're going, but we don't have anywhere to go. What do you want to do? I said, but in the Quarter, you can walk around you can call it your costume for the day, You could do whatever you want. And you could just say, I was at a wedding, or it was just over yonder, whatever. And you could do whatever you want.
Great.
Yeah. So I think the idea is how free are we willing to enjoy our lives? And we'll have to do that group in Miami, right?
Yes, I agree. That sounds perfect.
Absolutely. Well, Marylee, thank you so much for joining with us today. I love to have you with us. It was such a pleasure.
It has been a ball. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. If you'd like to find out more information about Marylee Martin, her book is An Unsuspecting Child, a memoir, coming to grips with covert childhood abuse. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page. Go directly to her social media pages, and you can always just Google her name, find out where the book is available, and it's all on all of the venues. And it truly is about being able to say, when I go through that door, I want to go through with a smile on my face, stand up proud, and let the wind blow in my hair. I'm not carrying all of this baggage. I am, and I did live my life free. Are we ready to do that? What is time? Maybe today is time. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr.jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.